Good to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
Where's everybody?
Susan, I have a quick question before we get started.
Yeah.
Last night there was a kosher couple at our table, and one of the non-Jewish guests was asking about the laws of kosher, which I was explaining, but she stumped me because I know poultry, although not a meat, you can't have with dairy.
Correct.
But she asked me, what about eggs?
Eggs are parov.
Okay.
Eggs are
It's a
parov.
pre-poultry?
Yeah. There's no blood. I think it has, it's also, there's no blood, just an egg. So yeah, eggs are fine. Eggs are, turning this off. Eggs are, neutral, parov, as they say. So, you can have salami and eggs, and you can have a cheese omelet. You can have either one, but not together if you're kosher.
I don't want to be kosher.
Well, then
I'm kosher, but I want to eat kosher.
Well, like people, so I'm just going to wait another minute while we're waiting. Just want to remind you that if you're interested in going to Spain, Tuesday morning at 9:30, there's an info session with the tour guide from Israel, who is going to be talking about our beautiful trip to Jewish Spain. And that on December 9th is a fantastic Shabbat, and there's a latke making contest. And I wanted to also let you know that on December 7th, it's being advertised, but pay attention. We're doing a program with the Museum of Tolerance called Strangers at the Gate, and it's a interfaith experience of tolerance, and they're going to be screening a movie in their beautiful theater about a Marine who comes back from Afghanistan and hates Muslims and is planning an attack, but then he meets Muslims and how it changes his opinion. And it's really about how you meet people that you think you don't like or hate or you hurt, and then when you get to know them, you realize they're just like you are. And then there'll be discussion tables, like discussion circles after, with people of different faiths sitting around together talking about the film and about whatever. And maybe they'll have some questions about.
Excuse me, Rabbi, the location of this place, the film?
It's the Museum of Tolerance.
That's what you said.
It's on Pico and Roxbury.
Okay, I know.
Yeah, but you have to sign up. We only have 50 tickets.
Okay.
If you want to do that.
Are they free tickets?
Yes.
Hallelujah.
Okay. Donna, you have to stop just chatting. Okay.
Hello.
Let's go. Let's start. And have I been starting with a bracha? But I think we should start with the blessing of learning. So let's do it if you know it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher tivanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot divrei Torah. Okay, I don't like to be spotlighted. I like the gallery. Okay, so this is a fabulous, wonderful parsha, and I love, everything in the book of Bereshit, in the book of Genesis or Bereshit, and it was also my daughter's Torah portion, and it's Tol'dot, which is the story of Jacob and Esau. So there's a lot to look at, and it's one of our origin stories as Jews, as the children of Israel. We're going to meet Jacob, who's going to get his name changed later down the line to Israel. So I'm going to start to share the screen. You've disabled the screen sharing, Don. Don, are you there?
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming.
Okay. If you have a Chumash, a Torah book, it's chapter 25, but okay, thank you. I'm going to share. And it's Tol'dot. And here we go. And I put it in really big print for everybody. And okay, it starts in Genesis chapter 25. And Tol'dot means generations. And a lot of times the name of the parsha is in the first sentence. It's Eila Tol'dot. These are the generations of Isaac, the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac. That's it. So why do you think we need to start with that? Why would we start with that? Telling us
As
that.
a reminder of where we are.
Of where we are and how few we were and how small we started with. One family, one man and his one son, who he almost lost, because this is pretty, soon after the Akedah. Sarah died and he bought the cave and buried her. And now we're going to the next generation. So we're moving on in the story. Okay. Somebody like to read the first through through this page. Who would like to read this page? Somebody
Here
read.
I will.
Okay.
And these are the generations of Isaac, the son of Abraham. Abraham begot Isaac. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, the Aramean of Padan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramean, to himself for a wife.
Aramaean. Yeah.
Sorry. And Isaac prayed to the Lord opposite his wife because she was barren, and the Lord accepted his prayer, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children struggled within her, and she said, if it be, so why am I like this? And she went to inquire of the Lord.
Okay, let's stop here because it's so complex. So Isaac was 40 years old. Does anybody remember, if you've been coming to this, I'm going to stop here for a minute. If come usual to Friday's Torah study, do you remember the story of Rebekah and Isaac and how Abraham, after the sacrifice, trauma experience or whatever, and he never really talked to Isaac again. Well, there's no record of it. He sends his servant to go and find a wife back home in his homeland. And he meets, Eliezer is his name, and he prays to God and says, give me a sign and let her be a kind girl and let me know. And what happens is he shows up at the well, and I've talked about this. The well is kind of the J-date of the ancient world. It's where the people meet. It's where the young shepherds and shepherdesses hang out every day. They come, they're out all day, and then they come and they water their flocks. So they all meet, and there's all kind. We'll see when Jacob meets Rachel later. It's the same well probably, and he asks Rebekah for some water. And what does she do? Who knows? Remembers what she does. She doesn't just give him water.
Got my hand up.
Cindy.
She feeds the camels too.
She waters the camels, which is a huge job. And I mean, I've talked about this in Women's Torah Study. Rebekah is a very strong person. We don't know how old she is. We think, probably a teenager. She was significantly younger because she invites Eliezer to her home without checking with her father. And when he offers, he reveals who he is, and he has all these jewels and gifts for the family, and he wants to take her back like immediately. And I always find it significant that they say, well, the mother says, well, let her stay a little longer, 10 more days. And they say, let's ask Rebekah. And Rebekah says, I'll go. And I always thought, wow, she had enough standing in the family in some way that they asked her. You don't usually hear about the fathers or the men asking the daughter what she wants. She said, I'm going. And so she went. And we hear this beautiful sentence at the very end of the last parsha where Isaac is walking in the fields, and there's this implication he's grieving his mother who has died, or the Orthodox say he was davening, but I don't know if he was davening yet. But he was walking in the fields, and he comes back, and Rebekah sees him. And there's this beautiful sentence where she sees him and she falls off her camel. It literally says she fell off her camel. Now you could say it means she just slipped off, jumped down, or wow, who's that? She fell off her camel. She fell for him. And she says, who is that? And they say, that's, Isaac, that's going to be your husband. And she immediately covers her face, which is kind of the sign of a bride, a kala. She covers her face. Also, maybe she wants to be alluring, or, oh my God, this is the one. And it says Isaac took her into his mother's tent and he married her and he loved her. And Rabbi Leader always talks about this phrase, meaning, sometimes love comes afterwards, or true love comes when you're actually in the relationship and time goes by. But there's a beautiful midrash about this portion where he took her into his mother's tent. So Sarah's tent, because the women had their own tent, had been empty since his mother died, and he took Rebecca into her tent. I'll call you in a minute, Pina. And they say that the Shekhinah had always dwelled over Sarah's tent, which is the divine feminine presence, according to the Kabbalah. And when Rebecca went into the tent with Isaac, the Shekhinah returned. So there's this idea of this, and he loved her. It says he loved her. And that's the first time we hear about love. I mean, we learn later that Jacob loved Rachel, but this is the first time we hear this expression of a man's loving a woman. Nina.
There is, when I was studying this section, I was explained that Sarah really didn't die right away when he was about to sacrifice Isaac. She left him. She went into a place where she had her own tent. She was a princess in Hebron, and she did not die. And he went to live with his concubine, with Agar, actually, with the mother of Ishmael. Right. And he stayed there with her. And while he was there, Sarah died later on.
Yes.
So she didn't want him. She was mad at him. She left him. So now the fact that it's still being called Sarah's tent gives us the feeling that she might have not still, yet even be dead. She might have
she'd already been buried. She was buried in the previous parsha.
Already? So, okay. Yeah. So as far as this part, fine. But also, if you pay attention, you're going to see that the story of Isaac is very repetitious.
Yeah, I'm cutting that part.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to do Yaakov, and I'm not doing, that he goes down to Egypt and all that.
No, he does the same thing. He sends the
I know.
Brings her to his mother, then she's barren again. It's the whole story that he's repeating whatever it is that was going on between his mother and his father.
Okay, so, but you're absolutely right. But I wanted to focus on, this was their backstory, and then it says, because that she was barren and Isaac prayed for her. Isaac prayed for his wife. And later on, when Rachel is barren and she asks Jacob to pray for her, he doesn't. He says, what do you want me to do? It's up to God. Or, he's very impatient with her. Whereas this love, he was an older husband, maybe she was 16. He was, 36, or we don't know, something, but he was 40 when they had children. But he prayed for her and God answered his prayer. So he had standing, and we see that Isaac had standing. Okay, so now, and she gets pregnant and she has such pain. She says, if so, why am I? What do you think that means? If so, why am I? If so, why am I? Im kein lama ani. If this is it, yeah.
I think she's just questioning, why am I in so much pain? What did I do to deserve this? And why do I have to deal with this?
I prayed for this, and this is it. This is
what I got stuck with.
These are the twins who are, fighting. I actually, my brother-in-law mother told me that when it was, I think him or his brother, when she was pregnant, one of them kicked so hard inside that the baby broke a rib.
Oh.
So, I guess, in twins or whatever, it's also this idea of them struggling. And what's interesting is, so even though we talk about Hannah, praying and being the first one that sort of prayed, we see Isaac praying, and now Rebecca asks God, how can I live with this pain? And God answers Rebecca. So far we've had two women, that God has spoken to. He spoke to Hagar, when she was in the desert and said, your son is going to be, a wild guy who's going to run through the desert and, be a certain kind of character. And it's like these women get these visions of their child from God, which is kind of a precursor to the Annunciation about Jesus. If you think about it, there's this pattern in ancient tales about the wife getting some kind of message from God about the quality of their special child. So she's getting this message, and I want to look at this because it's really interesting in a certain way. Okay, so who was reading? Merle, were you reading?
Yeah.
Okay, and she said, if it's so, why am I like this? So she asked God. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 kingdoms will separate from your innards, and 1 kingdom will become mightier than the other kingdom, and the elder will serve the younger.
Okay, I want to stop. So I recently in the last few years, read an interpretation of this. If you look at the Hebrew, and like Penina can tell you because she's Israeli, it says, hold on, I want to read this. The Rav Ya'avod Sa'ir. It could be that the older is going to serve the younger, or the older, the younger will serve. Right, Penina? It could be either way. It could be because, in Hebrew, you could go either way. You could go, you're Penina, you're muted. You're muted.
I have to see the Hebrew. I cannot
It
tell.
says, the Rav Ya'avod Sa'ir.
How does it spell Meirav?
No, the Rav. The Rav Ya'avod Sa'ir. And
It says that, okay, it's like giving the wisdom to the younger one.
maybe, because it could be the other way. It could be, and the older, the young will serve, or the older will serve the younger. It
Yeah,
could
but
be,
when they say avod, they mean follow the tradition that's needed. Somebody is going to be the example.
okay,
So-
well, all I'm saying is and so there's suddenly this question of, did Rebecca hear it right, or did she hear it wrong? Certainly, we see Esau is not liked. If you don't, and I want us to look at this without any commentary, how bad is Esau? How bad is he really? Let's just look, and then we'll continue. Okay, so because maybe there's a lot of prejudice against him. All right, so continue, Merle.
And the children struggled within
And
her.
her days, 24.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, okay. And her days to give birth were completed, and behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first one emerged ruddy. He was completely like a coat of hair, and they named him Esau.
So
And afterward-
apparently Esau is like a mantle. Like, there's some babies that have heads of hair. They have a little body hair. This was Esau, and he was a redhead. It's very interesting because I have a nephew. Nobody has red hair in the family, and he's born and he has copper hair. He still has it. It's somebody must, but neither one of his parents.
Must be adorable.
Okay, continue.
And afterwards, his brother emerged, and his hand was grasping Esau's heel, and he named him Jacob.
Okay, so
Now,
Yaakov means like heel, correct, Penina?
Yeah.
So
I
it's
think
like
so.
he's holding his heel, so
Yeah.
they named him Yaakov. Oh, and so this was 20 years later. It took no wonder they were praying for a baby. Now Isaac was 60 years old when she gave birth to that. So she was trying for 20 years to get pregnant. So even if she was 15, 16, now she's 35 and he's 60. And they finally had a baby. They finally had these two. Okay, who were they? And let's continue a little more. Somebody else read. Cindy, why don't you read? You're muted though.
And the youth grew up, and Esau was a man who understood hunting, a man of the field, whereas Jacob was a mild man who stayed in the camp.
Okay, so let's just talk about this for a minute. They were completely different, but the word for Jacob is Ish Tom. Tom could mean simple, pure, tamim, from pure, or mild. I mean, there are different, in one translation, it said he was an innocent man. In another translation, he's a mild man. So one was athletic and physical, and one stayed in the camp. So what do you make of that expression, stayed in the camp? What do you think that means? I mean,
I have the women's commentary, and it says he was a homespun man.
hold on. Homespun, that's interesting. So
Homespun.
what does that mean to you?
That he did more domestic things with his mother, like cooking and taking care of the home.
Okay, any other ideas of what it might? Yes, any other, Pamela, hi, nice to see you.
Hi. Well, it seems to me that you're looking at a description of two boys, one of whom is like your classic, almost dumb jock, and the other is a mama's boy. You know, like if you're going to put it like in the most negative stereotype of each of those characteristics, I would call one a dumb jock and one a mama's boy, neither of which are entirely flattering or entirely unflattering in ways, right? But very much polar opposite.
Okay, what would be a positive spin on both of those?
Well, I mean, if you're quote unquote a dumb jock, it means you're strong, you're athletic, you have a lot of the good qualities of being very masculine.
Okay, but why dumb? Why is he dumb?
Well, they said simple, right?
No, that was for the other one.
You
That
can
was for
always-
Jacob. That was
Right.
for
What I'm saying is, so if you've got one who's like the dumb jock, Jacob, and the other who's the mama's boy.
no,
But
the
so
other
then
way.
Jacob
Esau is the
is the jockey,
hunter. Yeah.
the jock.
Okay.
So then with Esau, with the mama's boy, you know, he's more sensitive. He, you know, in today's world, I would say he has better language skills because these are qualities that women tend to have. And, you know, and nowadays you might think of him as even more effeminate, but not in necessarily a homosexual way, but more in tune with being a good husband, even one might say, you know. So I think that those aspects, they made them archetypes because it's the Bible, right? So we have the archetype. One is the sort of hyper macho, and one is the more sensitive, bookish, almost kind of cook, you know, gonna plant flowers and arrange them kind of guy. That's how I would look at it.
You know, I'm going to call on you in a minute, Pnina. One of the commentaries in the Eitz Chaim says that I love this. The Eitz Chaim is one of the best Chumashes or, you know, Torah books because it has great contemporary and classical commentary. And they represent two sides of a whole being. In other words, each one lacks something. One is one aspect of us, one has the other aspect of us. And there's a lot of this idea because even later when Jacob wrestles with the angel, they also say he's wrestling with his dark side and his good side, that there's this acknowledgement that we're split or we're many people or whatever. All right, anybody else have an idea of what these two characters would be like? Okay.
May I speak?
Yeah.
I have my hand up. It's like
I'm
everybody.
sorry, go ahead.
All right, everybody just jumps in. Courteously, you know. I think it's an introvert, recluse. It depends on the environment in the home. Someone who wants to stay with their mother. It depends on the condition of the person's mental health and what's in the environment is. Homebody. Because in this world, in society, you see, no, in ancient days, I don't know how they did everything, but he wanted to stay in the camp. Maybe it's law. Maybe he wanted to be like a scout, make sure that we weren't attacked, that no one was attacked. You never know. Very protective of his mother, and recluse. I'm not sure what was going on in the home, you know.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Any other thoughts about Jacob? Okay, Penina,
Okay.
you're on already.
Okay. First of all, the word Meirav, it means that it's going to be many. The prophecy was that from him.
It says
it's gonna be-
Virav, but let's move on. We're moved on.
Okay,
Go on.
all right, okay. All right. We're talking now Esav and Jacob, right?
Yeah,
All right, so
personalities.
Esav was a hunter.
Yeah.
And he would kill. He was a hunter.
Right.
While Jacob, we know that they were shepherds. So there was more humility or more consideration to life. Even though one time when, and Jacob was not that, Jacob was not that innocent. He was very cunning because he bought the firstborn rights from Esau.
Okay, but we'll see that. But you're jumping. But right now, before we get there, but I think that's interesting. You say that,
He wasn't that innocent. But I think the word Meirav means that the prophecy was that
it
many
doesn't
people.
say Meirav. It says Virav. Virav. And no May. But let's move on. Okay.
All right. I think it's a
You have to
difference
look- you
between
have to
being a
look at the
killer, a
text.
hunter, and being somebody who had more compassion to life.
All right. Well, we'll see. Okay. Let's share the screen. Hold on. Tol'dot. Share. Okay. So now, and the youth and the yes. Who wanted to speak? Did somebody want to speak? No. Okay.
I don't mind.
I can't see everyone. That's the problem. Hold on. Let me see. It's like this thing is so annoying. Like it doesn't allow me to see everyone when I'm.
Oh,
Hold on.
I'll read if you want.
Wait, hold on just a second.
Okay, love.
Who else? Let's see who else is there. Let me just pull this down a little more. Douglas, do you want to read? Doug, do you want to read? Starts and the youths grow up. Do you want to read? You can't hear me? I don't know. Okay, all right, go ahead, Donna. And the youths grew up.
Okay. The last shall be first. And the youth grew up with Esau was a man who understood hunting, a man in the field, whereas Jacob was a mild man who stayed in the camp.
Okay.
And Isaac, okay, and the next verse too, okay.
Yeah.
And Isaac, okay. And Isaac loved Esau because he had a taste for game, but Rebecca loved Jacob.
Okay, so let's stop for a minute. So
Okay.
the father, Isaac preferred or loved Esau because they said he had a taste for game in his mouth, or he liked the taste of game, but it's probably more than that. Why do you think Isaac would prefer, knowing who Isaac was, why do you think he might prefer Esau or love him more or feel more, Cindy?
Because he provided for the family. He brought them the food.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I think that's very good. Yes. Any other reason why he might have preferred Esau? Pam?
So looking at it from the lens of the more masculine child versus the more feminine child, I think that even today, many fathers prefer their sons to be more masculine, that they respect and admire a more virile or perceptively more virile type of personality. But it also could just be what happens in a lot of families today, which is one parent gets one kid, another parent gets the other, because you kind of divide and conquer, and it just kind of happens that way, just from actual interests,
I think you're right. And I wonder if Esau was actually the exact opposite of Isaac. Isaac was a pretty mild-mannered, passive guy who, let his father sacrifice him, who never spoke up, had to have someone find him a wife. We see that Esau later marries on his own, and Esau kind of embodied what Isaac may have wished he were in some way. In addition to what you're saying, yes, but Esau kind of, was like, oh, this is my son. Oh my God, this big strapping hunter, guy, whereas maybe Jacob reminded him of himself.
Well, if you think about it, in our parent-child relationships, the things that press our buttons are, generally speaking, thought to be those that are most like ourselves, right? The thing that irritates me about my mother is probably the thing that I also have in me, right? And that's where it's the opposites attracting, and the looking at a magnet where you repel the same. So if Isaac is attracted to Rebecca, then Isaac is going to be attracted to the child who in a way is more like Rebecca, and vice versa. Because
Rebecca's pretty strong too.
Rebecca's pretty macho. Right?
Yeah, I think so. Okay, let's continue, because this is a very famous section of the Parsha. So Donna, just finish it.
Okay.
Now, 29. Now Jacob cooked a pottage.
Thank you. I was going there. Thank you, love. Now Jacob cooked pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was famished.
Okay, so the pottage is like a lentil stew. It's a lentil stew.
Go
ahead.
And Esau said to Jacob, "Pour to me some of this red pottage, for I am faint with hunger." He was therefore named Edom.
Edom, which comes from the word Adom, which means red. And I also think that Edom, that nation, is where Rome came from. I mean, I think, halachically or whatever, in the Talmud, they refer to Rome later as Edom, I think. I'm pretty sure, So they're, okay, continue.
Okay, now I know the answer to the question you're asking about Jacob. And Jacob said, "Tell me of this day your birthright." Esau replied, "Behold, I'm going to die, so what do I need this birthright?" And Jacob said, "Swear to me this day." So he swore to him. He told him his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob, Cindy wants to say something.
I'm just curious why Esau is saying he's going to die.
Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Okay, just the last sentence.
And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage. Hold on, my pictures. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he ate and drank and rose and left. Thus did Esau burn the birthright.
Okay, so he says, "Oh, what do I need my birthright when I'm going to die?" So there are multiple possible meanings for that. What do you think it could mean, Cindy?
I have no idea, which is why I asked.
Anybody have an idea of what it could mean? Well, it could mean I'm starving to death, and it's an exaggeration. Like, I'm so hungry. What do I care? Just give me something to eat. What do I care? Or there's a commentary in the Eitz Chaim that he's saying, we're all going to die anyway. I'm out there, as a hunter, and what do I care about a birthright? Who knows? It's kind of a philosophical thing. I'm not going to live long, or I don't care about it. But it seems probably more that he was starving and exaggerating and just said, "Oh, I'm starving to death. Give me some food." And perhaps he didn't, and I don't know, he didn't value it, or he didn't take it seriously, because Merle, yeah, you're muted.
I'm just thinking, well, what you said, he didn't take it seriously, but that he didn't want to be like anyone else. He wanted to be himself. And if he received a birthright, that meant he had to be like the person who he received the birthright from.
But he really wants the birthright, as we see later. And the birthright means a lot of material wealth and power.
Okay, right.
So, I'm looking, it says, hold on, where it says I'm going to die. Let me just see what the comment is. I'm at the point of death. Some people contemplating their mortality are moved to live their lives thoughtfully, to invest their energies in things that truly matter. Others, like Esau, say, "Why need I worry about mortality and religion, since I will die soon anyway?" So that's the Chafetz Chaim. They try to paint. Is it that he a dumb jock? I think, we're saying that. Yeah, Pam.
Is it that he doesn't want to admit it?
No, he just doesn't take it seriously. He said, "I'm hungry. Give it to me now." I mean, he's about Pamela, go ahead.
So I'm really thinking, again, with this whole archetypical theme, right? If you just superimpose it, flash forward a few, millennia, And you've got this like good looking 30-something confirmed bachelor. He's out there winning in business, winning the ladies, just never make, devil may care attitude. And then he gets older and realizes, wait, all of these traditional things that I thought weren't important to me, I am 50, 60, whatever years old. And now, gee, it would be really nice to have a wife and a family and kids and all of this traditional stuff around me. So I really see it as like the foundational archetype of the thing that we see in like so many rom-coms, really, of like the 20th century. Like to me, this is like a guy saying, yeah, we're all gonna die, but even still, like if he spends his life killing, right, there is that element of really understanding how fast life goes. 1 minute you're a breathing, living being, and the next minute, poof, whatever this thing that animates us is gone.
Right.
And so
It's like I want to live for the moment. I don't want to think about the future also.
and also because I may not have a future, so what's the point?
Well, that's why, you live now. Today I'm hungry. I want to eat now. Miriam Alperin.
Yes, thank you. My question is just a little on, maybe it's oversimplified. As I think of it, it is oversimplified. Here is a man who's a hunter. He's not a nebbish. I don't love hunting. I'm somewhat against it. I don't love the idea of killing innocent animals. But it's a person who is active, who moves. He sees the porridge in front of his face. Is he an infant? Is he unable to move his hands? Is he unable to consciously take a bowl and take some of the porridge? Does he need another human being to give him a bowl of porridge if he actually feels he's dying of hunger?
Yeah, but it's like, with siblings, like this is mine and you can't touch it. You have to ask. So he's making the pot. He says, well, give me some. He says, no, not unless you give me. I mean, you could just see it as this sibling rivalry or relationship. Yeah, he could grab it from him, but I don't know. I mean, he's saying, give it to me. Well, what do you give me for it? It's so typical of siblings in a way, that, fine, give me your birthright. Oh, fine, take it. But obviously Esau never thought he could actually sell it, because later we're going to look right now, he really wants it. And he's devastated when he learns that he lost it. So
May I say something, Rabbi,
Yeah.
about birthright? Because this is correlating with that story. I can still understand just a little bit how they're feeling, because I just found out that my father is my father, my sister's my half sister, and that he comes from royal blood, and there's an inheritance.
okay, but this is irrelevant. This is
Inheritance.
okay, but it's
Birthright.
irrelevant.
Inheritance.
Okay, let's move on. I want to just move on. Hold on to Shira. We'll
Not irrelevant.
okay,
Birthright.
then there's this interlude that we're not going to read about, where Jacob takes Rebecca down to Egypt, and it's a very parallel story to what happened with Sarah and Abraham, and selling his wife and passing her off as his sister, and blah, blah, blah. But we're going to come back, and then they're at the end of the interlude, they come back, blah, blah, blah. And here we say, and Esau was 40 years old. So now we've jumped in time to where Esau is 40 years old, and he marries Judith, the daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basmat, the daughter of Elon the Hittite. So he married two Canaanite, pagan, idol-worshiping women, and they were a vexation to the spirit of Isaac and to Rebekah. So they were aggravated because they were, monotheists. They were praying to Adonai. They were like the carrying on. This is another, I would say, to Rebekah, symbol that her son Esau was not worthy of carrying on the tradition at all. Okay, Penina.
Okay, it brings me now to the point that maybe we should have addressed it right away in the beginning. The fact that Jacob is going to be the link that continues this monotheism thing.
Yeah.
The whole society of that day, in the beginning, they were still very influenced of what was going on in Egypt. And Ishmael was, not Ishmael, sorry, I mean, Esau was still, like you see right now, that he marries somebody that still believes in the idols.
Right.
So according to, if he was like paying attention still to where did he come from before
Right.
the changes of values, then he's expected to be sacrificed. He was the firstborn. So here, that's why he said, my life is going to be short anyhow. But
Oh,
we are
I
living
think
in a
that's
different
stretching it.
society. And
I
Jacob,
don't think, I don't-
Jacob does not believe that Jacob was still Ish Tamim. He followed whatever it is that it was the tradition. He followed whatever it is that we needed, those frame of thing that what we say, interpret into this belief of monotheism. Nothing happens in a vacuum. You have to always look at the historical background of when you are looking at the characters and what they're doing and what kind of choices they're making. Nothing is in a vacuum. And this is why he said, I'm going to die, because this influence of the other religions and other practices were still around. It took time till everybody became what you call today Jewish.
I agree with you, but I don't think that Isaac, after what happened to him, would ever sacrifice his son.
Well, Ishmael doesn't know it. If he would have been
Ishmael,
studied, he would be
Esau.
more like Jacob. He was a hunter. He didn't
Okay.
think of those
I
things.
think that's interesting. Okay, time passed, and now we're here at the interesting story about how do we feel about Rebecca? How do we feel about this? I want to just say that when we were doing Bible study with Faithful Central Bible Church, I was talking to a woman who was teaching, she said, oh, we're doing the wicked women of the Bible. I said, oh, who are they? And she said, well, Rebecca. I said, Rebecca, we love Rebecca. I thought that was
Really?
interesting. So let's look at that. Who would like to read? Pam or Douglas? Do you want to read? Douglas? I don't think he can hear me. I don't know. Okay, Rebecca, how about you? And it came to pass.
It came to pass when Isaac was old and his eyes were too dim to see, that he called Esau his elder son, and he said to him, my son. And he said to him, here I am.
Okay, so I want to stop. First of all, this here I am, Hineni, is like a very famous response in the Torah. We had Abraham say it later. Moses has said it. It means I'm ready. I'm at the ready for whatever you're calling me to do. But this idea of his eyes were dim to see, there's this beautiful midrash that I just read, actually, that when Isaac was on the altar and his father was about to, slaughter him, and the angel appeared and stopped his hand, Isaac got a glimpse. There's two things I've heard. He's got a glimpse of heaven, which blinded him and made his eyes weak, or he got a glimpse of the ideal world, and after that, he was unable to see defects or what was going on in this world clearly. He saw everything through the eyes of heaven. So, of course, because they're always bashing Esau, the commentary says he couldn't see his son's defects. He didn't see Esau's defects because he was blinded by, this idyllic heavenly way of looking at the world. So either way, or he was literally had cataracts, we don't know, but it was somewhere, he couldn't see emotionally, psychologically, physically, he couldn't see. Okay, continue.
I like that. And he said, behold, now I have grown old. I do not know the day of my death. So now sharpen your implements, your sword, and take your bow, and go forth to the field and hunt game for me. And make for me tasty foods as I like, and bring them to me, and I will eat, in order that my soul will bless you before I die.
Okay, so it seems like the ceremony, it's interesting in a lot of cultures, of bestowing some blessings, some rights or whatever, is partly around eating or preparing a meal and eating a meal. So also it tells us that Esau can cook, or he can make something because he's got to go prepare this meal for his father. But it's a very interesting, as Penina said, you know, like they were in another culture. There's some idea of going out, killing an animal, preparing it, and then getting a blessing. There's some connection that, and it's interesting that all of our holidays, this is, you know, hundreds of years later, we have ceremonial foods, you know, and maybe that's common in other cultures, but ceremonial foods that stand for something else. You know what I mean? So just go and make me this meal or whatever. Okay, now, what do we think about this? Rebecca, you should read about your namesake. Go ahead.
But Rebekah overheard Isaac spoke to Esau his son, and Esau went to the field to hunt to bring it. And Rebekah said to Jacob her son, saying, Behold, I have heard your father speaking to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me game and make me tasty foods, and I will eat, and I will bless you before the Lord before my death. And now, my son, hearken to my voice, to what I'm commanding you. Go now to the flock and take from there 2 choice kids, and I will make them tasty foods for your father as he likes.
Go ahead.
To your father, that he may eat, in order that he bless you before his death. And Jacob to Rebekah his mother, Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, whereas I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will touch me, and I will appear to him as a deceiver, and I will bring upon myself a curse and not a blessing. And his mother said to him, On me is your curse, my son. Only hearken to my voice and go. Take.
God's sake.
Okay, let's stop here for a minute.
I told you this, don't be close to the screen.
Oh, no.
All right. Okay. So what do we think of Rebecca, and what do we think of Jacob in this scene? What do we think of Rebecca's plan, and what do we think of Jacob's response? I mean, it's an interesting response.
They're trying to cheat him on his deathbed, to fool him.
But why? Do you think she's right?
Because he's the favorite son, and she wants him to get the blessing.
It's not just the blessing being the birthright.
And the birthright, yeah.
So,
which he was promised by Esau anyway.
Promised by who?
His brother.
Yeah, but Rebecca may not even know that. But what does she know, according to what happened to her when she was pregnant?
That the second born will be the older one will serve the younger one.
Okay, good. But now, all right, we'll go back to that in a second. But what is Jacob's response? And what do you think of his response? Because, you know, yeah, Donna?
No, I think there's a lot of deception. A lot of deception.
Okay. All right, Pamela?
Well, I think it's interesting that what he didn't say was, that's wrong, I'm not going to do that. So what he said was, we can't get away with it.
Exactly. What if I get caught? What if I get caught is what he said. And then
he didn't say like, oh, gee, that's a bad idea. How can I do that? He said, it's not going to work. So let's have a better plan. We need a better plan.
Right. It's not going to work. My father might curse me. Do we think Rebecca was right in doing what she did? Is she a wicked woman, or is she a heroic woman, or what do we think about her?
My personal feeling, again, it goes to this like favoritism of each of them having their favorite child. And she wants her favorite kid to have the birthright, and the father wants his favorite kid to have the birthright. Like I see it as that sort of typical extension that we sometimes still see in families today.
Okay, is there any merit involved in this at all? Any merit of anybody, in your opinion? Nina?
That's the whole.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the whole idea of the continuation of the nation, of this Jewish, what you call today the Jewish nation. He was the one who showed more feelings or responsibility to live a certain kind of lifestyle. And Esau did not. It was more like the other nations, not special, not ish tamim. Ish tamim means somebody who doesn't have any thoughts, somebody who thinks clearly, somebody who also thinks with simplicity, with being more, how would I say it? Not responsible, I would say more realistic. Somebody who is more realistic, who is going to be able to continue that lineage of this particular thing that we call today Judaism.
Okay, Miriam?
I think we can feel very annoyed toward Rivka. She was manipulative. She was all the things that people have said about her. Nevertheless, she was told by God that Jacob will be the Redeemer, that Jacob will be the one that carries on the name, and therefore she has this inside of her all this time. It's something one cannot ignore. So on the side of her being almost that she had to do what she had to do, almost absolves her, but does not absolve her because she was cunning and ruthless and everything else. And especially so-called stealing the birthright from Isaac. Nevertheless, this was with her very strongly, the words of God.
Okay, so I always think that we should say not Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but Abraham, Rebecca, and Jacob. Because I feel like in a lot of cases, actually, I've talked about this, the men follow God and the women say, not so fast. I don't think this is the right choice. If we look at Sarah, she said, you have to get rid of Ishmael. He's your oldest, but not so fast. She felt that he had to go, and God said, listen to Sarah, whatever we feel about Sarah. Here, Rebecca is going, no, this is not going to happen. This guy is already married to pagan women. He's a big he loves blood, shedding blood. He's, always out there running around. And I know my husband who's older and, he's blind. He is blind to this guy, and I'm not letting it happen. And she says, let your curse be on me. And actually, at the end of the story, Jacob has to flee, and she never sees him again. So
that's a punishment.
That's her punishment. But she said, I'm taking it. How many times have we said it? Let it be on me, the mother. I'll take the punishment because I think this is the right thing to do. So was she manipulative, or was she like, oh my God, he's actually doing it? I mean, we can imagine her saying, them discussing this for years or whatever. And I'm not letting this happen, basically, is what she's doing.
The father knew. He said, Ayadayim yedei Esav. The father, even though he was blind, he says something there.
He kind of knew.
Exactly
We're not sure he knew.
We're not sure. We're not sure.
That's right. He was doubtful.
He was doubtful. Okay, let's take a look because, we only have a little while, but we got it. Okay, so we get to, so off he went and he took and he brought them to his mother, and she made tasty foods as his father liked. So she even made, just like he likes. And Rebecca took the costly garments of Esau, her elder son, which were in her house, and she dressed Jacob, her younger son. So she, again, this idea of clothing, dressing him, it was a huge ruse. You're absolutely right. And the hides of the kids she put on his hands and on the smoothness of his neck. And she gave the tasty foods and the bread that she had made into the hands of Jacob, her son. And he came to his father and he said, my father. And he said, here I am. Who are you, my son? Okay, who are you, my son? So that's interesting that he says that. What do you think that means? Or what can that mean on multiple levels? Who are you, my son? Are you Jacob, or are you an honest person? Are you a deceiver? What kind of person are you, my son? Because maybe and Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your firstborn I have done as you've spoken to me. Please rise, sit down and eat of my game. I guess come up and come to the table or whatever, so that your soul will bless me. And Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly, my son? I think Penina is right. There's a lot of suspicion there, not necessarily a lot of suspicion. Because the Lord your God, and he said, oy, 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 Jacob, because the Lord your God prepared it before me. Oy, oy, oy. Your God, not my God. I think that's interesting. And Isaac said to Jacob, please come closer so that I may feel you, my son, whether you are really not my son Esau or not. And Jacob drew, sort of like Little Red Riding Hood. Jacob drew near to his father and he felt him and he said, the voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau.
Not only that, he recognized, he says something so important here, that the fact is that he was sensitive from the beginning. He must have even heard something. When you are blind, other senses become more sharp. You think, how big is that tent that he's not going to see what's going on? Or
smell the cooking, but
absolutely. And he did not. But again, we are always. He never said no. Get away! I know who you are, because the idea was, again, I'm saying, history continued with Jacob.
I know, but let's just look at how many ways Jacob deceived his father. And he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like the hands of his brother Esau. And he blessed him and he said, are you indeed my son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, serve it to me that I may eat of the game of my son so that my soul will bless you. And then he eats and drinks and he says, come closer and kiss me, my son. And then he kisses him and he smells the fragrance of his garments and he blessed him. And he said, behold, the fragrance of my son is like the fragrance of a field which the Lord has blessed. So how many times did Jacob lie to get this blessing? And it's unbelievable. And yet the Torah, the rabbis, everybody condones him for doing this.
Did you ever smell the skin of a sheep? I bought the coat for my kids. It smells so strong, and he was a shepherd, so he recognized the smell of the sheep, not the smell of Esau.
Well, maybe Merle.
No, I was just thinking that, I have friends who have twins who are so diametrically opposed to one another, and the one who's the worst, the mother is always trying to figure out ways to make it work and to make their relationship work. And I see this in this where, they have two totally different personalities and everybody's trying to defend the other to make the relationship work for the parents.
That's interesting.
Not necessarily for anyone else, but for the parents on either side.
Now, what happens actually at the end of the story is Esau comes after the blessing is given and he says, Father, here I am. And he says, what? Oh my God, I already gave the blessing to your brother.
Oh my God.
And then Esau says, do you not have a blessing for me, Father? It's like such a sad thing. Don't you have anything for me? He's devastated and then angry. And he gives him a lesser blessing. And then he says, I'm going to kill my brother. I'm going to kill him. And so that's when Rebekah and Isaac actually send him with a blessing back to Rebekah's family in Aram, where Rebekah came from. They go to my brother, run, run, run. And the very end, let's look at it. It's poor Esau. I mean, we could just, that was wrong. What did I just do? Hold on. I need to do the share. Here it is. He says, you have the blessing, blah, blah, blah. And he says, your brother came with a cunning and took your blessing. So when Esau heard his father's words, he cried out a great and bitter cry. And he said to the father, bless me too, oh my father. And he said, your brother came with cunning and took your blessing. And he said, is this the reason he was named Jacob? For he deceived me twice. He took my birthright and now he has taken my blessing. Have you not reserved a blessing for me? It's so sad in a way. And he gives him a blessing, and Esau's crying because it's not the blessing. And Esau hated him because of the blessing that his father had blessed him. And Esau said, let the days of mourning for my father draw near. I will then kill my brother Jacob. Though Isaac doesn't die for a long time, they send him away. And the end, they bless him. I know where it's like, we're done. They actually, Isaac calls Jacob and bless him and commands him, you shall not take a wife of the daughters of Canaan. Go to, your mother's house and take somebody from there. And he leaves, but I wanted to show you this. Esau saw that the daughters of Canaan were displeasing to his father Isaac, and Esau went to Ishmael, which is his uncle, Isaac's brother, and took Mahalat, the daughter of Ishmael, the son of Abraham, the sister of Nebaioth, in addition to his other wives. So in the end, Esau was trying to please his parents and make them happy, and he was alone with them now, and Jacob ran off, and in the end, Isaac did bless him. So we have to look at that as well. He gave him a blessing and said, get out of here because your brother's going to kill you. And this is yet another story of two brothers being ripped apart. But what's interesting is, what is that we make of Ishmael then? Is he a monotheist if he's marrying a daughter of Ishmael, or is it just that he's in the family? I don't know, but I think that's interesting that he goes and marries his cousin because they're so upset, and Jacob's going to marry his cousin, and they don't see each other for 24 years until they're reunited. So, and Jacob ends up getting it back in spades. Deceptions and the heartbreak follows him for the rest of his life because of this. So we can, he may be, our ancestor, but he was very flawed, and he was deceived with his wives. He was deceived by his children. He lost the woman he loved. He really had, his daughter was raped. He had a lot of repercussions, which I think is like a morality tale here about what, because of this, really. So it's a fascinating and dramatic story that we never get tired of looking at. And I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving weekend and Shabbat
Thank
Shalom.
you.
Thank you, dear.
And
Happy. See you.
see you soon.